The 2025 NFL Draft is in the books, but what remaining needs do the Jets have? What did they ignore in the draft? And what more do they need to do? We'll discuss. Boy Green Daily starts now.
I'm going to lose my gosh-darn bananas. Boy Green Daily starts now. Zoinks!
Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily. Let's go!
Put your seatbelts on. Get ready for the ride. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Paul Eston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video show, also available wherever you get your podcast. Shout out to the people that listen audio only. We appreciate you here on the show. Again, I want to give another shout out. Thanks for being with us for all our draft coverage. We had the live stream on Thursday night for 4 to 5 hours. That was amazing with special guests all over the place. We had videos for every draft pick. Those were out. We had YouTube shorts for almost every draft pick as well out there. So it was a terrific draft, and thank you guys for your support. The channel grew, which is amazing. Another reminder, it's free to contribute. Like the video, hit subscribe, and show your support. Also, thank you for all the birthday shout-outs yesterday. I appreciate that as well. Thank you. Now, we will grade, because, of course, everyone's like, oh, well, what's the grade, Paul? What's the grade? Well, we'll grade it tomorrow. Drew Beatty, who joined us on our live show on Thursday night, he is ready. That video is already up and ready to go. It's not – the interview will happen live tomorrow. I'm just saying the interview is scheduled for tomorrow. We'll grade the whole draft to go piece by piece and go all the way through. So we will do that. Don't worry. I will not leave you guys in the dark on that one. That's coming up. So we will do that. But what I want to do now is sort of say, what didn't the Jets touch and why didn't they touch it? And what I did was on Boy Green Meets Woody, like a month ago, we went through the top needs that the Jets have going into the draft. I came up with the top 5. Woody came up with the top 5. And a lot of our top 5 was different, believe it or not. So what I did was I pulled all our top 5s and put them on a list. And then I went by it and either check-marked, X'd, or question-marked whether the Jets addressed it, didn't, or not. And let's just cut right to the chase, people. The biggest positional need for the Jets that they just straight up ignored is defensive tackle. You could make an argument that the Jets could have attacked defensive tackle with the 7th overall pick, for Pete's sake. Now, it did work out that way. Mason Graham went 5th overall, but it just goes to show you how much of a need it was. Defensive tackle was a massive need. The Jets did not use a single draft pick on it. I wanted to read this from Daniel Jeremiah, just to kind of give you context of how good this draft was. This was probably the best defensive tackle draft in 20 years. Here's Daniel Jeremiah. He said this back on February 11th. Last year at this time, I had potential starter grades on 12 defensive tackles. This year, I have 24 of them, ridiculous amounts of depth at the position in this draft class. I came on a show a couple days ago and said, shoot, you can make an argument the Jets should double dip at defensive tackle, that they should take 2 in this class. They took 0. Now, we're going to hear the explanation. Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn spoke after the draft yesterday in a press conference setting. We have that video package that we will play for you in a second. And we will see if you buy or sell what they tell you for the rationale of not taking a defensive tackle. Let's go to that. Aaron Glenn, head coach, general manager Darren Muji, asked the question about, sort of odd you didn't touch defensive tackle. Here's what they had to say.
One position you guys didn't address was the interior defensive line. I think coming in, people might have said, see the Jets taking somebody there. Could you, one of you just how do you guys feel about that position beyond, we know Quinn, right?
Yep.
But beyond Quinn, how do you feel about that position right now?
Yeah, we feel good about the group. I mean, the guys that are in that room, a lot of those guys have played. You know, Jay, Noddy, Coward, those guys have played in the NFL. They know how to play the game. We went in the draft knowing that the group was deep, and it was a good group. However, when you get to the end of the process, whether there's certain character issues or medical issues that may eliminate some guys, the group gets much thinner, So we went in the group anticipating it was a big group, it was a little thinner. There were still some guys we identified, but we feel good about the group we have right now in there. And like I mentioned, those guys can play, and the process doesn't end. We'll break this meeting, we'll go upstairs, the draft will end, and this is like our 6th and 7th round. And our guys will be hard at work, adding guys that we still think can help. And even after this weekend, we'll have the UFL to evaluate, we'll have all off season. We're constantly looking to add pieces to the team that we think can help at all positions. So by no means is the roster ever complete.
Interesting. From Darren Muji on defensive tackle. Again, they did not draft a single one of that group. And here are the defensive tackles they have on the roster right now. And some of those you heard him mention. These are NFL guys. They've played in the NFL before, is what Muji said. So, let's go through some of those defensive tackles. Michael Clemens, if you count him as one, he's sort of floated between defensive tackle and defensive end, so wherever you count him. Byron Cowart, he's new, 6'3", 300 pounds. You had him to the group. You have Phildarian Mathis, 6'4", 312 pounds, former highly touted draft pick of the Washington Commanders, and sort of fell out of favor. He was a waiver wire pickup for the Jets. Derek Nottie, 6'1", 312 pounds. Didn't play a lot last year for the Chiefs. His snap percentage tanked, but prior to that, he had played 6 strong years with the Chiefs. So he's solid. Okay. Leonard Taylor III, 6'3", 305 pounds. The UDFA from last year that shoulda, coulda, would have been drafted. I mean, he had the talent to be drafted, but there were some other issues at the U for LT3. And I'm rooting for LT3 hard. So maybe as I'm walking through some of the names, maybe the Jets feel better about some of these guys than we do. Obviously, they must. And in particular, I'll highlight Leonard Taylor III. I see him taking a massive jump. But even with his jump, I still wanted some other security in the room. And we didn't get that. Here's another guy, Jay Tufele, 6'3", 310 pounds. A lot of these guys sort of similarly built. Bengals player, Jaguars player from his past coming over here, but a lot of the analytics are not good for Jay Tufele, who's in here. Obviously, we have Quentin Williams. He's pretty good. Yeah, we got Quentin Williams. He's good. But the question was, who's next to him? So for me, as I look at this group, it lacks some sizzle. It lacks some of that depth in which he said. The interesting thing that he did mention, that being Darren Muji, is that he admitted that the defensive tackle group was big in the draft. However, medical and character concerns eliminated a lot of guys off their list. This is another thing we don't know because this is a new regime. Is what are their thresholds, right? Sometimes you have thresholds at positions. Your corners have to be at least this tall, at least this fast, at least this. Teams also sort of have that medically, right? They go, oh boy, if you're not here, you're off the board. Or character concern, that is super subjective. Some teams go, we don't give a flying hoot. We'll take best player available. And you saw some of that with Mike Green, the pass rusher. Ravens didn't give a hoot. He gets drafted in the 2nd round. Without some of the off-the-field concerns, it's probably a top 10, top 15 pick. So depending on what are the character concerns, criminal-related or what have you, there's a new regime. We don't know what their thresholds are or rules are. Maybe we never will. So, interesting there. Again, I'm high on LT3. That's one guy. I'm high on LT3, but that is only one guy. And I'll be kind of curious to see. Yeah, Indy Jets. I agree. I love LT3. I think he's going to be good. I hope so, too. But that's sort of a missing piece to the puzzle here at defensive. Not sort of. Let me not sugarcoat it. That is clearly a missing piece to the puzzle here. Because a lot of the guys the Jets signed, sure, they're NFL guys, but they're just guys. Now, here's the thing. The Jets' run defense was awful last year. A thing that should help is, schematically speaking, Aaron Glenn and all his defenses over the years has had really good run defense numbers. So it might be a schematic thing that he is teaching that regardless of who's in there, it's sort of like you go back to the day of the Mike Shanahan offense. We could plug anybody in at running back. They'll get 1,000 yards. Maybe it's that sort of psychology at defensive tackle with how they line up. They can do it. To me, and for all of us, that's going to be faith And the definition of faith is belief without evidence. The evidence does not suggest that the Jets are going to be able to consistently stop the run next year when you have Byron Cowart, Derek Nadi, Jay Tufele. That on the surface, that doesn't go, position solved. That doesn't say that. Also, I will go back to Exhibit A, right? Philium was someone who mentioned this a few times for the draft. FFL 98, one of our many Boy Green Coffee Club members. You won't be able to fill every need in the draft, and that's true, of course. You only have so many picks. And then, obviously, your picks higher are more likely than your picks later. That sort of makes sense, sure. But defensive tackle just seemed like one of their biggest needs. I get it that you can't check every need off of. Well, okay, we can sort of agree on that at the surface level. But boy, defensive tackle seemed más importante. But hey, we'll see what the Jets know. So defensive tackle, that has to be in the group. I do want to highlight, and these names are still sort of churning in. I mentioned they did not draft the defensive tackle, and that's true. They did not. But they got very active in the UDFA, undrafted free agent market. And again, those names are still filing in, so I don't want to do a full report on their UDFAs yet. We know a couple of names that are in, and I'm intrigued by a couple of names. And we'll get into that eventually. But specifically, they've so far only signed one defensive tackle in UDFA. I thought, okay, you don't want to draft one. That's sort of weird, but you want to make up for it. You go to undrafted free agency, which, as Darren Muji described in his presser yesterday, is like your 6th or 7th round. You're like competing and recruiting guys. The only defensive tackle they got is, let me make sure I try to pronounce this right, Fatorma Mulba. Or if you just read it out, it's Fatorma. So it could be Fat Orma, which, would be great if he can play in that way because we need a guy. So Fatorma Mulba is the guy they signed as a UDFA. Shout out to the Beast. He's 6'3". The Beast from the Athletic, having some details here on Fatorma Mulba. He's out of West Virginia. He's 6'3", 309 pounds. Again, it's sort of the same profile as a lot of the other guys that have come through. Some of the pro day numbers: he's got 33.5 arms, 83 3/8 wingspan, 5.07 40-yard dash. Some of those numbers here, I'm looking at some more data from him. He had 28 bench press reps of 225 pounds, so he's got some strength. There's some chutzpah there. There's no question on some of the confirmed NFL data from his pro day, so that's very nice. And I will tell you, it's a really cool story for those who don't know. Shout out to PennLive.com, and specifically, let me see who wrote this piece. Brian Linder, who talked about Fatorma Mulba. And like I said, he's got a really, really cool story, which we'll talk about here. Okay. And his agent, Brett Tessler, revealed that Fatorma Mulba, a nose tackle, defensive tackle out of West Virginia, is signing with the Jets as a UDFA. Had a ton of interest around the league, according to his agent, but the Jets were the quote-unquote perfect opportunity. Mulba is a native of Liberia. His parents won their nation's lottery to be able to come to this country when he was young. He did not know what snow was or had never held or knew what a football was before arriving in Pennsylvania. He didn't know what a three-point stance was when he got to high school. So this is obviously a guy that's very raw from that perspective. He has not been playing football a long time, but the combination of size, strength, and intelligence, he ended up with 2 degrees, including a master's, which caught some recruiters' eye for the academics and for his play on the football field. He did sign with Penn State, and again, admittedly raw, got some reps in a deep defensive line room, and then finished his final 2 seasons of college off at West Virginia. He had, in his senior campaign, 50 tackles and a sack for the Mountaineers. Really cool. A really cool story, and we'll see sort of what it all means. He said he achieved the American dream. There's some nice quotes in this story about, taking advantage of things in your life. So a cool story to pay attention to as we're moving forward again. Fatorma Mulba, West Virginia, like that UDFA story. But that's the only name they've added at defensive tackle. And again, he won't inspire a lot, I imagine, too. With the rawness and lack of overall ability. We'll see if that's a nice little dart throw there that can sort of be addressed. So, okay, defensive tackle. Obviously, that's a big one. We wanted to talk about that. Check that one off the bucket list. So we got defensive tackle there. Make sure you guys like the video, hit subscribe. We got 400 people in the room. Appreciate it. Also, keep those super chats and memberships flowing, baby. Again, we still have the emoji up for grabs. Whoever has the most moolah will replace the BMAC emoji. So let me throw that up on the screen. We didn't talk about that much during the draft. If you'd like to replace the BMAC emoji, the highest bidder during the month of April gets to replace the BMAC emoji. So buy those memberships, send in those super chats, and you guys will have an opportunity for that. Another need for the NYJ was wide receiver. Wide receiver was a big need for the Jets. Let's talk about that one. Well, the only wide receiver the Jets took in this draft was Arian Smith, a Georgia wide receiver. He was the 110th overall pick in the 4th round. That is the only wide receiver the Jets drafted. Okay. And Arian Smith is an interesting cat. He's a track star, ran the 4th fastest 40-yard dash at his position among wide receivers. A track star in high school, a track star in college. That's it. He is a friggin' speedster. So someone I could understand how they could be infatuated with that element of his game. Now, the problem is he's fast. You can't question that. But normally, a prerequisite to playing wide receiver is being able to catch the football. And, well, that's a little bit of an issue for Arian Smith. He had 10 drops last season. He was the only Power 4 wide receiver to have double-digit drops in college football last year. That translates to a 16.7% drop rate on catchable balls. That was among the league leaders, not just in this draft, but in all of college football, according to Connor Rogers. So he has some struggles and inconsistencies with catching the pigskin. So that's an issue. And that's not great. So it sounds like they believe in Joe Hendry. No, they believe in the ability to find their very poor man's Jamison Williams. A fast guy that can take the top off a defense. A fast guy, that can open things up underneath, because if that threat is legit, he could be a decoy even at wide receiver. So he's an interesting cat. It's a dart throw. Again, people are sort of varying in his pre-draft analysis. At wide receiver, for instance, Dane Brugler, when you're talking about wide receivers for Arian, he had Arian Smith. Let me make sure I have this right. Arian Smith, he graded as a 5th-round draft choice, and the Jets got him in the 4th round, so that's not absurd. Connor Rogers had him as a 6th-round pick, so he was a lot lower on Arian Smith, and he thinks he needs to learn all phases of the wide receiver position. So Connor was very low on Arian Smith coming out. But even with Arian Smith, I look at this wide receiver room, and I'm like, oh boy. Here are the names at wide receiver for the Jets. Garrett Wilson, yeah, I've heard of that guy. That guy's awesome. You have Alan Lazard, who's on a pay cut. Okay. Tyler Johnson, sort of a guy. Josh Reynolds, a blocking wide receiver that's probably more suited for wide receiver 3 or 4. Maybe wide receiver 5. You have Xavier Gibson, an undrafted free agent that has shown very, very few glimpses. Malachi Corley, total unknown. We have no idea what he is. You have Arian Smith, who we just mentioned. You have Irv Charles, who's coming off like a torn ACL very late in the season, so I have no idea what his status is. And then you have Brandon Smith. That is your wide receiver depth chart, folks. Now, there are some UDFAs, and I can highlight those in a second, of some other guys that they're sort of kicking the tires on. And let's go those. Jimmy Jets, real quick, he said they should have paid Nick Nash more UDFA money. Yeah, he was one of the first people signed in undrafted free agency. There was a bit of a bidding war going on for Nick Nash, who was out there. Here are the UDFAs they signed. Shout out to Jets Media, by the way, putting a nice little graphic here together. Quentin Skinner out of, looks like Kansas here. And let me see here. Jamal Pritchett, South Alabama. So let's highlight both of those individuals, because those guys are now getting added to the pool. These are reported UDFA signings, again, undrafted free agent signings for the New York Jets. So like I said, we can highlight some of those individuals here on the program. Let's start off with Quentin Skinner, 6'4", 203 pounds. You love to see that. 40-yard dash, pretty slow, 4.51 Nothing too crazy there. 32.5-inch arms, 9.5-inch hands, small hands there. 78 and 5/8 wingspan coming in. So they're going Quentin Skinner. They're sort of the skinny on Quentin Skinner. 6'4". I like the size. That's really intriguing. 200 pounds. A little slower at 4.51. We'll see. What he can do. Let's go Jamal Pritchett. Let's pull up the South Alabama. Let's go to his nuggets here for Jamal Pritchett. South Alabama kid, 5'9", very, very smaller guy, 175 pounds. Ran a 4.42 40-yard dash, very nice. 9.25-inch hands, 29.5-inch arms. Whoa, that wing. Okay, interesting arm length. All right, and 71 and an 8 wingspan. All right, Jamal Pritchett. Some super productive receivers at their level, but a couple of bless myself. A couple of just UDFAs got added to the list. I think those are the only two from the UDFA pile. Again, UDFAs are still flowing until the Jets announce the official list. None of this is official, I suppose, so keep that in mind. But again, Quentin Skinner and let me see, Jamal Pritchett. Those are the only two wide receivers I currently have on the bingo card for the Jets. And again, these won't be officially confirmed until the Jets put out their UDFAs. Excuse me. So wide receiver, my big question when you look at that depth chart and you look at the UDFAs and everybody for the Jets, my question is who the hell is wide receiver 2 on this team? When you start breaking down target share, 3 names stick out for me at this point. A lot of things can change. You have Garrett Wilson. He's obviously going to lead the Jets in targets. And then the next 2 that are battling for it are a combination of Breece Hall and Mason Taylor. The Jets also, looking at the draft class, did not take a running back. So any of the Breece Hall trade noise, that didn't really happen. The Jets did add a UDFA that I friggin' love in Donovan Edwards out of Michigan. And 2 years ago, Donovan Edwards was averaging, or 3 years ago, I guess technically, he was averaging 7 yards a clip. I mean, he looked awesome. He looked like he was going to be one of the top running backs eventually in the draft. And the last 2 years, his yards per carry plummeted. But he's a guy running the football, catching the football. I love Donovan Edwards. I think he's going to be your RB4 on this team. So I'm very high on Donovan Edwards. Love that UDFA signing out of Michigan. Very nice. Very nice there. But obviously, yeah, so Breece is going to be I think he's going to be top 3 in targets. And then probably your other one is Mason Taylor. Yeah. Shout out to Ritz Media. Had some good nuggets on Justin Fields. His QBR is the 3rd best in football when targeting tight ends. So he loves tight ends, and the Jets got him one, and Mason Taylor. So nice size, speed, all that jazz guy. So, okay, that gets added to the group. So tight end, let me reverse engineer my way back over there real quick because we didn't address that one. Tight end was a big need for the Jets, and they checked it off. Mason Taylor is a massive upgrade over Jeremy Ruckert and Stone Smart, so that's awesome. Yeah, Tony G saying Edwards is a quality UDFA, 100%. I love Donovan Edwards. Hell, in my final mock draft, he was my Mr. Irrelevant pick for the New York Jets. I really love Donovan Edwards. That's a really nice grab. Love that UDFA signing. Very nice. I'm just looking through all my notes here. So, yeah, tight end. So, check that one off, right? Tight end was a big need. They checked that off. Mason Taylor's in. Again, you could have even argued for a double dip at tight end. My boy, Rondé Gadsden, goes to the Chargers. So, that's fine. Right tackle, obviously, big need. Okay, you got Armand Membu. Booyah. So, the Jets have the potential of a top 10 offensive line in football, maybe even higher than that. So, right tackle was a big need. They checked that one off. Tight end was a big need. They checked that one off. We go to a couple of the other ones. They did not take a quarterback. Some people thought they would. They did not. In terms of the UDFA, we got Brady Cook, supposedly, out of Missouri, reunites with his offensive lineman Armand Membu. The Jets were hot and heavy for potential of Quinn Ewers. He ended up getting drafted by the Miami Dolphins. They met him 3 times during the pre-draft process. I think he would have been their top QB target in UDFA if he would have made it. He did not. He ended up getting drafted to the Dolphins. Look at that Dolphins quarterback room. Quinn Ewers, Zach Wilson, and Tua. Interesting. But anywho, so Brady Cook, did he and Jordan Travis, I imagine, battle for QB3. We'll see who walks out of that club. Some interesting comments. We'll probably do a different show on Jordan Travis later in the week. Some interesting comments there. So QB they didn't touch. But again, I think I said it before the draft. You could have made a strong case, a very strong case, that, hey, the Jets should take this guy, or this guy at quarterback. And three of my favorites were Kyle McCord out of Syracuse. He goes to the Eagles. That's cool. The Donovan McNabb, Syracuse Eagles thing. That's awesome. So happy for Kyle. I would have been very intrigued by Jalen Milroe. He ends up going to, I think it was Seattle for Jalen Milroe. Let me double check that if there was Seattle there for Jalen Milroe. But that's what I remember for Jalen. So obviously he could have been a potential option. Yeah, where'd he go? Is he? Seahawks. Okay, cool. For Jalen Milroe, he went Seahawks. And then the other one was Shedeur, obviously, that I pounded the table for. Mel Kiper-esque pound the table for, apparently. And he goes to Cleveland in a wild plot twist. So you could have, if the Jets would take one of those guys, I would have been like, okay. But I also said before if you don't take one, I totally understand because of all these other needs and other things, and you just say, hey, man, we're just going to build around Justin Fields, and clearly the Jets did. That was their ideology during this draft. Again, we'll probably do more on that in a show later this week too, really diving deep into that. And then also a somewhat of an endorsement on Jordan Travis. Again, we'll also get to that later about him being the developmental guy moving forward now there with Brady Cook in the room. So quarterback they didn't touch, but I got no issue with that. Edge rusher, that's another interesting one. I was higher on edge rusher need than I think others were, if we're talking about that for edge rusher. And let's see, on draft, they only had the one that was Tyler Barron, Miami pass rusher. Final year at Miami. His previous 4 years were at Tennessee. He had 5.5 sacks last year, which initially looks intriguing on the surface, but as Connor Rogers noted on the Bleacher Report live show, 3 of his 5.5 sacks came against, do I have it here in my notes? Florida A&M. So again, Tyler Barron, the Jets pass rusher they traded up for. He's most recently of Miami, but spent the previous 4 years at Tennessee. He had 5.5 sacks last year, which again on the surface, like, oh, okay, that's not bad. But 3 of his 5.5 sacks came against Florida A&M in week 2 last year. So sort of inflated numbers, you could say. But the Aaron Glenn Daramuji combination after the draft sort of highlighted the fact that the trades they believe are here and they think they could take it here. And hey, we'll see what the coaching ends up doing for that. So edge rusher, is it still a need? We'll sort of see on that. A safety. I didn't put that on my list. I got to write that on my list. So safety was a need. And obviously, we were unclear when they took A.Z. Thomas. We're like, oh, is Brandon Stevens going to go from corner to safety? And then the Jets took their own safety and moved up for him. And Malachi Moore out of Alabama, he was the 130th overall pick in the 4th round. The Jets traded up for him. And interesting on Malachi Moore, the Jets revealed how much they coveted Malachi, that they wanted him bad. You would have thought with how much they wanted him, they would have taken him at 110 over Arian Smith, but they did not. And they were able to play the game and get everyone they wanted, apparently. We'll see how it all turns out. But interesting there on Malachi. So he is going to compete immediately at safety, and probably Malachi and Andre Cisco are your starting safeties on the back end there. So safety, if you want to check that off, they did address it. So we can talk about safety, put that one in the mix. We talk about wide receiver sort of being a question mark. We'll see what happens there. Also, off-ball linebacker. Now, there were a few positions for the Jets. Zach Quinn says, real quick, I just want to talk about this. He says, Malachi Moore will be a free safety. I think it was my boy Damian Parson, who covers things for Bleacher Report on their draft site. He was on the draft show. He says Malachi Moore can play both as a strong safety and free safety. So we will see how that versatility works. He could also play in the nickel. Now, we have Michael Carter II, so that's probably more an injury situation or situationally, depending on the situation. But, he says Malachi Moore can play both. So we'll sort of see what happens there at safety. Just want to address that one real quick. Off-ball linebacker and corner were two needs that are not like needs, but they're sort of needs. Because like Quincy Williams, right, what's going to happen with him? He's entering into last year's deal. The Jets lost the meat depth of corner in the middle when he lost Brandon Echols. So A.Z. Thomas replaces Brandon Echols in that world. And then an off-ball linebacker, right? They in the draft, they ended up taking another Miami kid, Francisco Mauingoa, and a.k.a. Kiko, if that's easier to say, Kiko Mauingoa, ended up being the off-ball linebacker there, a thumper linebacker that should be the Zaire Barnes still on the roster, but he's like linebacker 3 if everything works out right, as that third guy that'll be competing for spots. Now, I want to give this note. I read it in Rich Cimini's column this morning. Quincy Williams, who's in the last year of his deal, and it's sort of awkward because now his running mate, Jamin Sherwood, is making like triple the money he is. Quincy Williams has been at voluntary workouts. So salute to Quincy. That's kind of a nice sign, right? He could be holding out and saying, hey, man, I want my money and things of that nature. Quincy's been at voluntary workouts, according to Rich Cimini. Interesting. Just wanted to share that nugget that came out in his column this morning. Not holding out there. Really nice. And that sort of addresses it. And I mention in the headline of this video, and we'll open up the phone lines. We can have a lot of conversations about a variety of topics. The possibilities of trade. Now, before the draft, Adam Schefter in his intel piece put all the veteran players who could be available via trade, and here are some other players on rookie contracts who could be deemed expendable. I won't go through the full list, but I'll go through some of the positions that we talked about here and things that could make sense. And wide receiver, but I don't love the wide receivers that are available, according to Adam Schefter. Traylon Burks, no thank you. Jalen Hyatt, the Jets got their Jalen Hyatt and Arian Smith, so no thank you on the speedster. George Pickens, while wildly talented, he's a basket case. And that would certainly, him and Garrett Wilson on paper in a Madden video game sound awesome, and George Pickens can make some crazy catches. Unless the Jets felt good about the personality that is George Pickens, I would avoid that one personally. And then you have Kayshon Boutte, who doesn't really do anything for me either at wide receiver. So the wide receiver trade names are not great. Then you go to the veteran market. Tight end, I think, is off the table. You got Mason Taylor, so Dallas Goedert, Mark Andrews feels like something for someone else. That could have been a backup plan for the Jets if they missed out on tight end, but they got that. They're not trading for Kirk Cousins. They're not going after either of the corners, Jalen Ramsey or Jair Alexander. And then edge Trey Hendrickson. Again, it just doesn't feel like a Jets move from where they're at to pay the draft pick compensation and then the money. So I don't see that one either on that. So I don't see that either. So on trades. But is a trade looming at some of these positions, right? Like the ones that had big question, like defensive tackle. Is there a defensive tackle? There was none on that list from Schefter that fits the bill. I don't see it at quarterback, so slice that one off. Edge rusher, maybe. But again, if it's for an edge, it won't be Trey Hendrickson coming in. Wide receiver, do they take one of the free agent wide receivers? Maybe, Amari Cooper and those kind of guys are still out there. The Jets circle back around for that because they're desperately lacking a wide receiver too. But maybe they're just with a primarily running offense and how they split it up, giving a lot of guys opportunities. Maybe it'll be sort of a wide receiver by committee. We don't talk about that sort of theme often, but maybe that's a possibility. So that's a big assessment of it. We got 600 people in the room. Like the video, hit subscribe. We're about to open up the phone lines, baby. You could share your thoughts on the draft, on needs remaining, and everyone else here as well. And we'll see. We'll see what's popping. Again, send in your super chats, your memberships. Keep all that flowing, baby. If you're watching on YouTube, underneath in the YouTube description down below is how you can join the Boy Green Coffee Club. That's our YouTube membership group. And again, you're going to want to join that here very soon because the NFL schedule comes out in about 2.5 weeks, and we're going to be doing a big Boy Green meetup tailgate. And as soon as the schedule comes out, I'm going to be plucking a few of those games, and we're going to be voting on that in Discord of which game people prefer, because we'll know the time, we'll know the week, and all that jazz. So if you guys want to go to that, I highly recommend joining the Boy Green Coffee Club. It's only $2.99 a month, supports the show, and also gives you some voice in those conversations as we try to pick out a game where you guys can all join up with us. I hope we get as many Boy Green Coffee Club members as possible at this tailgate event. It'll be cool for all of us to be all together. So I'm very much looking forward to that. But let's do this, baby. We're going to be opening up the phone lines here on the show, and you guys can send in your questions or comments or maybe a vent sesh of something you did like or didn't like in the draft. A quick hep timeout, and Boy Green Daily continues after this.
Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily. Talking Jets football, man. Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily. New York Jets Football Club. offense, defense, special teams. Watch Jets football with Boy Green. J-E-T-S. Jets, Jets, Jets. Let's go.
You heard the man. Let's go. Phone lines are open. That is youtube.com/boygreen25 right here on the program. Jets content every bleeping day, people. Yes, sir. That is youtube.com/boygreen25. We do stream live on our Heavy on Jets Facebook page. That's a great place to watch it. On Twitter, @boygreen25. Another great place to watch it. But the most optimal place to enjoy the show is on YouTube, people. That is where you guys can enjoy the product at its best value. Keep the phone calls coming. I see we're getting a lot of them in here, so we'll go through it all here on the program. Let's kick it off with Hep here on the show. What's up, Hep?
Hey, Paul. I'm just curious. The real head scratcher for me was the third round pick. What do you think?
The third round pick. Who did we have here in my brain? So, A.Z. Thomas. So, how they explained it was Muji in particular was just the value was insane. Like, I cannot believe this guy's still on the board. And I was reading a bunch of, because I saw Lily asked this about, so what are the experts saying on draft grades? And Mel Kiper on A.Z. Thomas said if he would have ran a better 40-yard dash, he was a first-round pick at corner. And then, he was graded by Dane Brugler as a second-rounder straight up, and they got him in the third. So from Darren Muji's perspective, they didn't go, hey, we need a defensive tackle. We're taking whoever is at defensive tackle in the third round. He argued, and again, we can all disagree with that if we want. We don't have to just accept it for what he says, but he just said, hey, I trusted the board. And I'm like, holy crap, this player should not be here. We're taking him, and we'll figure it all out of where everyone fits here. Because obviously everyone's question is, well, where does Brandon Stevens play?
Yeah,
is A.Z. Thomas just a backup? So there's a lot of questions here, but that's what they say. And like I said, I was reading that from Mel Kiper this morning, who said if he had a better 40, he had a 4.58 40, he would have been a first-round pick. And I'm like, when I hear that, I'm like, oh, okay. And Aaron Glenn must know what he's talking about as a 15-year corner.
I was a little disappointed. I was really rooting for Higgins in that second round.
Oh, my God. He got drafted like immediately, right? Like the second or third pick of the second round. I'm like, oh, that dream's dead. Like, let's old Yeller that one in the backyard. Right. Yeah, that one was dead quickly. Yeah.
And I think Buffalo kind of creeped in right in front of us.
Oh, my God. They sniped us. And I don't now. I'm connecting a lot of dots here. So first off, Rich Cimini in his piece this morning said Buffalo traded in front of the Jets for Deion Walker, the kid out of Kentucky, the 6'7" guy, because they totally thought the Jets are going to take him. So that's what Rich Cimini said from the Buffalo side.
Oh, that would have been nice too. Yeah.
That would have been nice. Yeah. Darren Muji in the that was the video clip we played earlier. He said they eliminated a lot of defensive tackles off their list because of medical and because of character. And he didn't mention Deion Walker by name, obviously, but a problem with Deion Walker is his pars defect, which is a spinal back issue. So if they medically eliminated him, then the Bills moved in front of us for nothing. We wouldn't have grabbed him, but I would have loved him. I think he would have been a perfect fit for what the Jets were looking for.
Yeah, you said he was 6'7". Yeah. I guess those giants can sometimes have a little,
which I guess makes sense, right? Yeah, exactly, with the back issues. Yeah,
right. All right, thanks, Paul. See you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, good one, Hep. And I would say this. So again, like corner, I didn't have very high personally on my own bingo card, but if there's anything you're gonna trust AG with, right? Like he's never been a head coach before, so there's a lot of people that say, hey. I get all the touchy-feely. I get the honeymoon thing. He was the first-round pick in 1994. I get all that, and some people are all goo-goo-gaga over him. There's some people that are going to say, prove it on the field, pal, okay? We haven't made the playoffs in 14 years, AG. Let's see it on the field. And some people are going to be like that. That's totally cool. Hey, man, it's your prerogative out there. But for me, again, even if I didn't have corner as high, the guy who played corner for 15 years in the NFL and started off with a scouting background and a longtime coach, if he says, hey, this corner is me, then okay, AG, you have forgotten more than I will ever know. So I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on that one, Coach. So A.Z. Thomas, salute. And also, we played this video during the YouTube shorter videos that are out there, not on the live show, but Trevor Sikkema was asked at the NFL Combine in late February, who is a player anywhere in this draft by Caroline Hendershot that fits AG and his style and everything? And Trevor Sikkema said A.Z. Thomas. So it's kind of cool that full circle he ends up being a pick. All right, let's go back to the phone lines here. We got John here on the show. What's up, John?
Hey, how you doing, Paul?
Yeah, I'm doing excellent. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, so this is my big takeaway from the draft. All right. We
Mhm.
solidify the offensive line. We're going to run the ball. Right.
Yeah.
All
Mhm.
right. We got a top line, the tight ends. We got a
Yep.
speedster who's going to take the top off all the defenders.
Mhm.
All right. And then we're going to cover the hell out of everybody. We got different types of safeties now. We got different types of cornerbacks now. So I believe Aaron Glenn is going to win games in the defensive backfield. That's my
Mhm.
opinion. I mean, we got a big linebacker too, and they're going to coach these guys up. So you got to give these guys the benefit of the doubt. But I like the fact that we have different size cornerbacks. Michael Carter. You have Az Thomas. You have Stiggers, who's a good backup, and
Right. Yep.
and we're going to have a really good special teams play as
Mhm.
well. I mean, some of these guys that they're picking up as undrafted free agents, I mean, we're gonna be really good. I believe that he's looking at the Jets as a defensive back, juggernaut. That's my opinion. He's gonna
Mhm.
mix and match players. Az Thomas, man, he's got the best feet of any defensive back that was in the draft. So I mean, the guy can cover, and
Yeah.
he's gonna play fast.
I think so too, John. I appreciate the call, brother. I'll also say this to your point on special teams. If you look at day 3 of the Jets 2025 draft, Arian Smith, Malachi Moore, Francisco, aka Kiko Mauingoa, and Tyler Barron, all 4 of those guys play special teams. And specifically, this is something we did not mention. Arian Smith, it sounds like the Jets view him as this dynamic return man with his speed, that they're going to try to use him in that way, whether it's as some decoy stuff on offense and Gidget, Gazmo, smoke screen, that sort of stuff, but also a return man. So the entire day 3 guys, their calling card, according to the Dane Brugler's athletic profiles on each, they've got special teams prowess. So they're sort of building up that third of the game that we normally don't talk about. Now, it's not as sexy and touche on getting guys that have those dual roles as both defenders and specialties, but just something sort of also to sort of factor in there when we're talking about all that for sure. All right, let's go. We've got plenty of phone calls, so we'll get to all those. Keep the super chats coming in, baby. Let's get all that rolling here on the train. I see we got one in here. I want to make sure I didn't miss anyone else. All right, let me just see. A quick peek. Oh, yeah, we got a membership in here. Okay, great. All right, I want to scroll back up to make sure I didn't miss anybody else in here. I was looking away from the comments during our phone calls. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, let's get some action happening here. Appreciate it. Let's go. We've got MFC. Yeah, baby. Mother effing chew with a Boy Green Coffee Club membership, baby. You love to friggin' see it. There you go. Some draft chabs. Let's see. Who is the latest member to the Boy Green Coffee Club? Shout out to MFC. He got himself another raffle ticket for our action happening this month. Appreciate it. Thank you kindly. And we also have a super chat coming in. We'll get to that in just a moment. Phone lines are open, so you guys can keep that rolling here on the program. Look like YouTube glitched out. Unfortunately, we can't read whoever that member is, but you know who you are out there. But like I said, MFC did get another raffle ticket for our contest. We'll update the scrolling ticker. We had the draft scrolling ticker for a while, so we will update that in due time. I'll try to have that ready for the show tomorrow for Drew Beatty coming in as well. But MFC, you have 15 raffle tickets so far this month. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you kindly. All right, let's get to that super chat. Then we'll go back to the phone lines here on the show. It is Forged Through Faith with a $5 super chat. Every time we get a super chat, we hear from my beautiful, amazing daughters, Ryluna. Wow. BG, not draft related, but your thoughts on the new rivalry jerseys coming this year. All right, let me hit a Google search. I saw they did a couple of those promotions during the draft. So the rivalry jerseys. All right, we'll all see this together, I guess. Rivalry jerseys NFL. Okay, let me get a peek ski at this. All right. All right, NFL.com. NFL launches rivalry jerseys. Let me see. Maybe I didn't see this during the draft. I mean, I saw the commercials for it, but do they have like see if they have a picture or something of it? Let me see. Let me go to images. Try to see if I can see this. Not seeing a lot here. So if someone has a good link or something to these rivalry jerseys, let me know. I'd love to see it. It's either launching something, fan gear inspired. Let me see what I can read what they have in the report here. Oh, wait, here. We got something from the Jets here. Let me see. Jets will wear NFL rivalry uniforms during 2025 season. All right, let me see what the Jets say about this. The Jets will be one of the participating teams that wear a unique rivalry uniform next season, joining a first wave of teams from the AFC East and NFC West. The Jets rivalry uniform will feature design-sourced material from local community insights during a home game against another AFC East rival. Nike and the NFL announced on Friday the rivalry program, which will drive fan engagement by celebrating storied traditions and uniting communities with unique and elevated product designs. The program elevates NFL rivalry games over the next 4 seasons with specially designed Nike uniforms and fan gear. The program will celebrate storied traditions and help to unite communities with unique product designs. Interesting. I don't see any images yet for it, but that sounds super cool and interesting. So, yeah, to me, and this is why we go back to, we may see that change next month, and there seems to be some momentum towards it. Of right now, the divisions are so important, right? We talk about the seeding. I got into a healthy argument about this with Philium, and a couple other people were also in the pro camp of, because, like, for instance, let's go to the NFC North last year, right? So we had the Lions and Vikings battling it out, the 14, 15 win teams, the winners, the number 1 seed in the NFC, the losers, the 5 seed, and has to go on the road. And some people see that as inherently unfair. To me, I'm like, hey, man, divisions change every year. One year you have great division like that in the NFC North, and other years you have a 7-win team winning your division. The divisions have ebbs and flows, and to me, personally, I want it to stay that way. The winning team in a division, to me, should have a playoff game, of course, and it should be a home playoff game. Like, you earned your home playoff game against your division, and to me, bringing it full circle here for True Faith, rivalries matter. So they have a special je ne sais quoi. I think they would mean a little bit less if you win your division and then you're going on the road. Again, different strokes, different folks. The thing that I will tell you that, like, right, that it may appear that I'm sort of hard-headed on this topic. The thing that I will be honest, the greatest counterpoint someone's given to me this is my radio partner. He says, hey, Paul, in the NBA, you're a big NBA fan, right? I'm like, yeah, sure. He's like, who are in all the divisions? And I went, well, and I'm like, and then I paused for a second. I went, oh, yeah, that's not as important. In the NBA, they stack the conference, and then the best teams overall, the stupid divisions, don't mean crap anymore. They don't mean nothing. And I went, all right, that's the best counterpoint I've heard, and that you would just stack by best records, and that's what they do in the NBA. So maybe it's possible. But anywho, to get back to your point, for True Faith, I have not seen any images, so if you have one or a link to one, let me know, and I'll show it here on the show live. But I like the idea. That sounds cool. I love shining an extra light on rivalries, and I heard some of the promos during the draft. I guess I wasn't paying enough attention, I guess. So that's interesting. Nice. All right. Cool. Yeah, sure. Like I said, I haven't seen any images or anything for it yet, so I don't know if those are out there or we don't know any of that, but yeah. If anyone does know any links or anything to that jazz, feel free to let me know or send that in somehow or some way. But shout out Forge Through Faith. Thanks for sending that in. Much appreciated. Let me see. Did he have an explanation here for it? Did I miss that? No, I don't think so. Okay, but thank you. So appreciate the super chat. Yeah, I'm all for highlighting rivalries. That's awesome. All right, let's go back to the phone lines here. We've got EZ here on the show. What's up, EZ?
Hey, what's up?
What's going on, man?
I just need a piece of toast.
Oh, nice. How do you like your toast?
What?
How do you like your toast?
Toasty.
Okay, me too. I like a good toastiness. I like when it's extra crunchy.
Well, I like it when it's perfectly golden brown. Nice.
Oh, okay. Sure. But not burnt. Okay.
Well, sometimes I leave the butter out overnight, so in the morning when I get my toast, it melts right on and through.
Well, that's a good technique. All right, there you go.
Anywho, sure. I think it was a C. That's my grade on the draft. We have 4 good players and 3 reaches.
Okay.
Someone was saying that our first round pick, Muga. What the hell
Armand Membu?
Membu. Yeah. He's not a reach. He's a good player.
Oh, yeah, I heard some people say that because they think he's raw or something.
No, they're high. The guy didn't give up any sacks or any pressures, and he's a right tackle, and we fucking need a right tackle. We don't need to convert a guard to a tackle or a left tackle. Well, I'd rather have a right tackle who's a good right tackle rather than take a like second string left tackle and throw him over on the right side. No, this guy's going to be good. We have a good O-line now. That's the one thing I can say about the Jets this year. I'm confident in the O-line. I'm confident in the O-line depth. We were talking about this.
Yeah.
But I have a question. Why did they wait so late to trade up? They traded up after everybody was gone.
Yeah, what was that? So they only had one pick in the first 4 rounds. So it was, they had a first, a second, a third, and a fourth. And then they traded back into the fourth for another 4th round pick. That was Malachi Moore. That's a good point. Like I said, with how much they were drooling over Malachi Moore in the post-draft presser, they said, oh my God, we coveted that guy. Oh man, we targeted him. Then why didn't you take him at 110? That's what I didn't understand. So again, it works out. They got lucky, I guess. If he was still on the board and they were able to aggressively sort of move up for him. But yeah, it is. Yeah, they waited all the way till day 3 to do it. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
They did it. You know what I think they wanted to do? I think they wanted to maximize the extra 5th and 6th. And the only way they could maximize the extra 5th and 6th is to move up in the 4th and 5th.
Because, the value is lesser. Right, sure. That makes sense.
If they would have tried to move up into the 3rd round, they probably would have had to waste capital on next year.
Right. Yes,
and I think they did give up one next year pick, but I think wasn't it a 5th or
swap?
6th rounder?
Yeah, it was a Baltimore swap. It ends up being all the same. Anything. Yeah, because for this, the Baltimore swap was the pass rusher, I do believe. So they gave up their 6th for the Ravens' 5th, and then they swapped those same picks the next year. So to be honest, he didn't do nothing. 5th, 6th, and then 5th, 6th. So yeah, to me, it was just pass the biscuits. They didn't really give up anything to go get the Tyler Barron kid, the Miami pass rusher.
I think they're going to get a D lineman in a trade somewhere.
I think they need it. Yeah.
Down the road. There's the waiver wire where we get 7th pick in a waiver wire.
Correct. All the way throughout the offseason. Yep.
There are going to be some cap hit casualties after the draft. There always are.
Sure.
There's going to be people made available who you have no idea are going to be available. This whole thing with the wide receiver from Detroit. You know me with names.
They said he won't be available. So they of course they all have draft pressers too. Yeah, the Lions GM Brad Holmes came out and aggressively said that's all BS. He I don't know where that came from. We've had no conversations. We're not going to have any conversations. And then they picked up his 5th-year option.
And the checks in the mail. So there you go. You can't believe anything they say because they'll say that every year, and then if someone makes them an offer they can't refuse, guy's gone. So, but anyway.
Touché.
I have one question other than the draft.
Okay. Sure.
Do you know of any spectacularly different NFL rule changes this year besides the GPS chip in the ball?
Oh, yeah, right. So they've removed the chain gang to a backup form.
Oh, a backup, right, yeah.
No, but that's everything you're saying. I'm just explaining it to the people. That was a big rule change. So chain gang, for those who don't know, that is now a backup plan just in case the technology, for whatever reason, wasn't working. They will have the chain gang just kind of sitting there on the sideline, ready to go if anything happens. That was a big one, obviously. Sure. No, go ahead.
Is the chip in the middle of the ball, or they have it at the ends of the ball?
That's funny. That's something I said too, because that's not going to be even. So I would assume it have to be in the tip. But then if
they put it in the middle of the ball, right where it goes, and wherever the tip is, the tip is. I mean,
why? Because I guess you could see the tip. Yeah, I guess so. Maybe that makes more sense.
They'll move it around. They'll say, "Okay, GPS point right there, bang," and then you can see the tip of the ball is. Yeah. As far. And then they could change. I don't know. It's just a bunch of hooey to me.
To answer your question, there are a couple of changes. So the touchback line is moving from the 30 to the 35. And some people may say, what's the big deal? Well, what that means is NFL teams last year just said this rule is like the whole kickoff thing obviously changed last year. People went, we're not going to F around with that. Hey, kicker, boot that to the guy sitting in the 304 up there. And then we're not. So basically the kickoff play is dead. Like, come on out.
So it'll be a 65-yard opening drive.
Well, that's why I think they're trying to punish teams. The teams that say, hey, just boot that to section 304, they're like, okay, well, now the ball's at the 35-yard line. Are you willing to do that? Most teams won't be. So now the kickers are going to try to plant that right at the 5 or 10-yard line and dare the returners to come out. So I think that 30 to 35 is probably normal, casual people in the streets are going to say, what does that even mean? That's not a big deal. But I think it will be a bigger deal. And the other one was the overtime rules changing. So in the playoffs, each team gets a chance
Right.
to,
Now,
even if the
it's in the
first team
regular
scores a
season
touchdown.
too. Now
Correct, right. So
everybody
that's
gets 2
new.
shots. Good.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
'Cause
And it's
I
still
always
10
thought
minutes,
that
though, I
was-
believe.
I always
Yeah.
thought that was the most unfair thing in football. I mean, during the regular season, if you lose the coin toss, you lost the game pretty much.
Yeah. And
I
the
mean,
last
or the
one,
chances were, yeah.
replay assist, get some different alterations. Again, the person in New York or whatever, wherever the people are, they can't throw a flag on their own. But if a flag was thrown, it was incorrect. Like, for instance, contact to the head. If clearly contact to the head did not happen, again, not subjective stuff where it grazed
Right.
or this, like it clearly didn't, they can pick up that flag. So there is replay assist that added to some of those respects. Yes.
Well, that's good because if there's just like a slight glancing blow to the head of a quarterback and they've thrown and I mean just like, where the guy just kind of just taps it on the way at incidental contact or something, and they throw that roughing the passer. I mean, that's kind of, they got to get rid of that shit.
And sometimes what you get is a pass rusher clubbing and he hits the shoulder, but the head whips
Right.
back and the ref sees the head whip out. He's like, whoa, flag.
Right,
And
right,
if that
yeah.
happens where it's punch to the shoulder or something, they will pick up that flag if it was thrown. Yeah.
Also, in the when like a cornerback or a safety makes a hit on a receiver, they
Correct.
can see that he hit him here,
Right.
not
Square it
here.
up. Correct.
Right.
That's another big one. Yep.
So that's good because they need to clean that up because these players work so hard at trying to clean up the game because they don't want to hurt their brotherhood on the field. Nobody wants to hurt their brotherhood. I mean, they want to let me get it straight. They want to get a good shot in. Everyone likes that good shot, but they want it to be a good, clean hit. And sometimes the guy will dive down at the last second, and they got to do something for the guys that dip their heads down at the last second.
Right. The defender should not be punished because I'm coming. I'm like, oh, I've perfectly targeted it. And then the guy just drops his head and I hit his head. I'm like, well, yeah, but he did it. He's the one who fell. Also, so those are all the rule changes that happen. They're not done yet. There's another owners meeting in May. Tush push is expected to be banned. That's supposed to be removed. And they're going to change the language.
That used to be a penalty. Do you know
pre-2004? Correct.
They used to have a penalty where the guy would take. I can't show you because I'm not wearing my trousers. I'm just in my underwear. But they would take both hands.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. I'll show you. The penalty was aiding the rusher, and it was like kind of like this.
All right.
Both hands like this, and they'd go like this, pushing. That was it. Was like down lower, but it was like this. And that was the penalty. It was called aiding a runner. That would be like if you grabbed his shoulder pads and helped pull him, or if you pushed him. Yeah, I see. I never agreed with that tush push rule because it used to be a penalty to help a runner along. That the runner is supposed to gain the momentum and the yardage on his own. You're not supposed to have 3 offensive linemen behind him pushing him. This is not a rugby scrum. This is American football.
So it sounds like they will go back to that rule you're talking about that existed like pre-2004. They had that in. Then they changed it, and then no one had really taken full advantage of it until we've seen the Eagles recently. The latest momentum from the league suggests that they're going to go back to that pre-2004 wording where, again, you can't aid or abet anymore. Maybe they'll find a new way to do it, but it sounds like the tush push will be removed. But just sort of be aware, there might be a couple other rule changes or alterations, right? Their onside kick thing and things of that nature late
There was
May.
also a penalty called hurdling.
Oh, really? I forgot about that.
Where you couldn't jump over a guy.
Wow.
They used to have a lot of rules in the NFL.
Yeah.
Check it out. It's really cool. They had a lot. They're doing all this stuff to make the offense more dynamic.
Yeah.
They don't want 14, 13 games. Or they don't want that. They want high scoring games. They used to have a defensive back on the Oakland Raiders, Lester the Molester Hayes.
Hmm.
I mean, these guys, these receivers and quarterbacks don't know how good they have it now. Back in the 70s and 80s, you could maul a guy running down the field. You could
And look at him now.
destroy a quarterback in the backfield.
Well,
do you think Tom Brady would have made it during the era of the Pittsburgh Steelers with Terry Bradshaw and all them guys?
probably not when you're getting the forearms to the face. I don't think so. But EZ, I appreciate the call and not dropping the camera any lower. God bless America. Thank you very much. Anywho, let's go back to the phone lines. Indy Jets here on the show. Indy?
Hey, good morning, BG.
Hey, what's up?
2 points I want to
Sure.
make here. Back in 2010, 2011, our offensive line, we had 3 first-round draft picks.
Yeah, Nick Mangold, DeBrickashaw Ferguson. Who is the third? Who am I not thinking of? Oh, Damian Woody, I guess technically was a former first rounder, right?
Yeah. They met whether we picked him or whether he was
Right.
He was
Yep.
But then if you look at the other two, one was a UDFA. He was
Brandon Moore, right?
Yeah, and then the other one was a 6th-round pick. And look what our offensive line is built today. We have 3 first-round draft picks. We have a second-round draft pick and a third round. I mean, this has got to be probably one of the best offensive lines. And it may not be this year. It may take a year.
We'll see. Sure.
Yeah. So I fully expect at least an AFC Championship game.
There you go, baby. That's what I'm talking
Right.
about. I love again because, like, at the end of the day, offensive line play helps everything. It helps the run game. It helps in protection. So if they're going to overkill at a position, shit, it's hard to complain at being offensive line.
Exactly. And then the second point, last year's our run defense was.
Oh, God.
Well, I don't. We didn't even have one. I don't think. If you can't say it was bad, it just wasn't there.
Non-existent,
you
right.
can't say it's missing. You can't say it's missing. When we don't have, or it's bad when it's just missing. But
yeah.
I think the explanation of drafting that corner and then drafting the beast in Malachi Moore is that he to stop the run you got to stack the box. To be able to stack the box, you've got to trust everybody to be one-on-one out there.
Yep.
And he's the corners that we have and the safeties that we have. He can put 4 out there and in almost any combination, with Michael Carter, Sauce, in almost any combination that he has, he can leave them out on an island. The entire defensive back staff and continue to stack the box. Yes, we don't have that number one run stopper, but you can do that by putting 8 in a box consistently and having faith in your defensive backs to say, hey, it's all on you guys. If they do pass it, you're out on your own. But he's got the guys that can do it. So, I don't know. I don't know if I think that was a really good, if that's his plan. It seems logical to go, hey, the guy that he drafted this year is the I wouldn't say he's the Sauce Gardner, but his strengths are one-on-one.
No doubt.
And so that's if he just stacks the box and leaves everybody out there, right there will improve our run defense.
And boy, do we need that. Amen.
Yeah. So that's my theory on not drafting the D lineman and just helping out that secondary is, maybe that's his goal is to leave these guys out on an island and say, hey, the rest of the team will stop the run. Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, but fingers crossed, because we've had a lot of issues with that. Ashton Davis on that third level of the defense having poor angles, poor tackles, and that got really bad because when you were missing those tackles there, simple 3, 4, 5-yard plays turned into 60-yard plays and 70-yard plays and 50-yard plays, and those were devastating things that could have been bottled up. So I hope you're right. I hope some of that security on the second and third level of the defense now, kind of limits the ceiling of some of those big boy runs.
Yeah. And so, I don't know, but we'll see. I think just having AG here it is going to make, even if you took the same players that he had last year, I mean, and not bring in anybody new, the defense is better.
Yeah, we're going to get fresh new scheme, fresh new perspective. Again, with the coaching was so bad last year that AG has to be an upgrade by default. And I have no idea what he's going to be as a head coach. We're going to find out together. So by default, it's better. But how much
Exactly.
better? We're going to find out.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, it's the defense wasn't that bad when Saleh was there, but once he left, Ulbrich just he had no business being in that role without Saleh. So
Right.
I think with AG there, just with the defense, I think that by default, like you said, will be better.
Yeah.
But
Which
all right,
will be good.
appreciate you. Thanks. Keep it up.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, thanks, Andy. Appreciate the call. We got 700 people in the room. Like the video, hit subscribe. I appreciate when we have super chats and memberships and that jazz, but the free way to contribute, help spread the gospel. We grew a lot during the draft. We're trying to make a chase to 10,000 subscribers, baby. So help us get there. Like the video, hit subscribe, baby. Let's keep the phone line train rolling here on a beautiful Sunday, April 27th. The draft is over. Again, we'll grade the draft tomorrow with our special draft analyst, Drew Beatty. He'll pull out the professor report card and bring us through. I've been looking at some what of the experts are saying, some interesting thoughts. Again, we'll get there in due time. Let's go back to the phone lines. Paul A. Esden Sr., Draft Mania, Hop on Pop, the legend, joining us here on the program. Good morning, Pop.
Hey now, it is good afternoon.
Where are you now?
I can see the Arabian Gulf. I could hit a rock, and I can't throw it very far, straight out my window.
There you go.
And
nice.
I'm also right next to 4 nuclear power plants.
Wow. Okay. Well, make sure you're being careful on which buttons you're pressing over there, Pop. Huh?
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up. You have invited this information, this story, to the Coffee Club universe. I can't believe you did it. You set yourself up. It's like a T-ball. So, quick story before I call the. So, as I was retiring from the Navy does a retirement ceremony. As part of the retirement ceremony, people came from all over. It's they came from 6 or 7 different states. The family came. It was great. And as part of the day before my retirement ceremony, one of my proteges gave my family a tour of the sub. Unfortunately, I guess you didn't know where this was going, but unfortunately, his name is Mike Davies. Shout out to Mike Davies. I'm sure he does not watch the show. But unfortunately, Boy Green, who at that time, beep boop, how old were you? Do you know? Do you know how old you were?
I do not.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
Yeah. So I retired in 2008. The ceremony was in February, so it was before your birthday. So you were just about to be 15. My math.
Yeah.
So you were 14 and 10 months. Whenever you start, like, I'm 14 and 3/4. I don't know when you stop doing that. I'll tell you, when you get older, you don't say that. Like, I'm 99 and a half.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe when you're 99, you pick it back up again. Like a kid, you do it. And then when you're old, you do it. Yeah. But anyways, so on the tour, he had to keep telling Boy Green, do not touch any buttons on the nuclear submarine carrying ballistic missiles. And he had to, and there, Boy Green's like, he was like Bart, like where you go to touch this, ow, ow, ow. And so this is one of the origins of the moron. As he wants to turn a switch, flick a button on the submarine, and let's just say that there's switches and buttons that you don't push. You don't push them, and you attempted to push them repeatedly.
Well, maybe those buttons shouldn't have been easily accessible to a 4'3" 14-year-old. That probably is a malfunction on the nuclear ship. So, quite frankly, really, what you did was you allowed me to reveal the vulnerabilities that are on this naval battleship. So, you're welcome.
Yeah, Mike almost threw you like a lawn dart off the top of the submarine. So, anyways. Getting back to my point, I've already given my breakdown of rounds 1 through 3. I'm not going to repeat myself from yesterday. I would like to briefly By the way, I watched all your videos. Great content. If you haven't seen, I've shared a few. I lost track because of time difference. So that was not great to see them all live time. But I'd like to comment on a selection and then a lack of a selection. And so I'm not going to stand here and I said it before, Aaron Glenn, Muji, right? This is their bailiwick, right? They're not going to come to the nuclear plant and give me some insights. But there are some glaring things that they did. Again, I talked about the first 3 rounds, but the truly baffling, especially when they talked about we're waiting for this guy and then we had to trade up and they lost picks. Why? Why did they draft the guy from from an unnecessary roughness, Stonehands? So why did they draft him or the guy? Because he and the other character he's is from the Replacements movie, both amazing football movies, by the way. That they had wide receivers with lightning speed that could not catch the football. So why? I was an advocate for someone that they would get someone that would stretch the field, but I wanted them to get someone that would stretch the field that would catch the fucking ball. I don't know. It's just weird. And he was pretty high for, it's just odd. And, there have been some amazing track stars that translated. Some did not to the NFL. Bullet Bob Hayes is an example. I think he's in the Hall of Fame. He translated, but this kid, this high, I just don't know, especially if you're the Kansas City Chiefs or you're the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, we're going to take a shot because you know what? Who cares, right? We're good. That's not where the Jets are. That's all I'm saying. That one was very confusing. Very confusing.
I just wanted to pull up because an interesting, I was going to say technique, but it's a strategy or a review or a report card or whatever. It's okay. The Jets took this receiver, the one you mentioned is Georgia wide receiver Aaron Smith at 110. Who are all the receivers that they basically passed on in that round? And I have them all here. I have the draft results that came in. So the Jets took Aaron Smith again, 110 overall. That was the pick that they just had. They traded up later for the safety in the 4th round. But here are the other wide receivers that went in that range. I think a lot of Jet fans would have preferred. Jalen Lane, he was the wide receiver to Virginia Tech, ended up going to the Washington Commanders. Smaller guy, 5'10", 191 pounds. He went at wide receiver. Jalen Royals, another very popular Jet fan, hoping thing it was going to happen. 6 foot flat, 205 pounds. He was a wide receiver out of Utah State. There was, and I always butcher his name, but it's Elek Ayo Manor. He was 6'2", 206 pounds. There was another one Jet fans were very high on. And then Jordan Watkins also went there in the 4th round. He was the 5'11", 196-pound wide receiver at Ole Miss. And I have to double check when this other guy went. Maybe it was the 5th round because I had a wide receiver target. Let me see if he ends up being on here somewhere. Horton. I don't know where he ended up going, so let me see if I can find that real quick. There he is. So what is this round? Let me make sure I get this right. I believe it's 5th round. Yeah, so there you go. The receiver I wanted ended up going to Seattle in the middle of the 5th round. The Colorado State wide receiver, Torrey Horton, 6'3", 196 pounds. He missed basically the majority of last season with a knee injury. He was the one that I really wanted, and the Jets passed on him multiple times. He was the pick after Rondé Gadsden, by the way. Rondé Gadsden the second. Salute to you, my good sir. That's the one I wanted, and then the Jets later in that 5th round traded up for Tyler Barron, which ended up being their final pick. So, yeah, they passed on receivers that, I just didn't see it, but it seems like from Mucci, they were just so infatuated with that speed because after the draft, they did this presser, and Mucci was asked, yeah, he's really fast, but he had 10 drops last year. That's the only power 4 wide receiver that had double-digit drops in all of college football last year. Whoa, what happened? And he's like, yeah, that's part of his game. And I'm like, part of his game is dropping the football? What does that even mean? So that answer of, that's sort of part of his game, but we can work on this to improve it. But, hey, he's really fast, though. And I was like, okay. So we'll see.
Yeah, the 2 glaring things outside of this offensive tackle shore up, one thing I can say with drafting Membu is they weren't that charmed up with Okafor. They saw him as the backup, not the other way around, which is fine. But the 2 glaring things is a weapon and a fatty, right? A weapon and a fatty. And they really didn't get either one. Like those were two of the bigger gaps. They had other gaps, edge, safety, beep, boop, bop, right? But some of the holes they filled, people didn't saw them as holes. And Muji's explanation that you played a little while ago was goofy. So we got a bunch of guys.
Yeah,
we got a bunch of guys.
Right. That to me wasn't a riveting endorsement. So, hey, the question was basically, I don't know if they said this in the question, but this is one of the richest defensive tackle drafts in the last 20 years. Why'd you ignore the position? And went, yeah, sure, there's a lot of names in the defensive tackle pool, but hey, once you start eliminating guys for medical reasons, character reasons, the group was a lot thinner. And we have a lot of guys on this roster. They've played in the NFL. And then I went like, oh, okay. I didn't know that was the line, but okay. The standard operating procedures. Have you played in the NFL before? Okay, great. You're in. Like you're in the bouncer club. That part I didn't really understand either. Because like Derek Nottie, okay, cool. He's a professional. He's a multi-time Super Bowl champion, a key cog for the Chiefs for the majority of his career. Last year, he played like 20% of the snaps. So him, okay, you got that. That made sense. But the other guys were just randos. Byron Cowart, rando. Jay Tufele, rando. Again, maybe they see something we don't. They must, I guess. But I do like Leonard Taylor III. Again, I'll give another shout out to him. He was an undrafted free agent last year. A lot of potential, but again, he's a really young, unproven guy too.
Yeah, and here's the problem, right? Yeah, they picked the tight end that they picked.
Mason Taylor. Yep.
Mason Taylor, right? He's not, nor has he ever been a machine. Chewing up yardage. He's a weapon, but he's kind of like a dull weapon, he's not very, and you could have done other things, right? And like we gave up Darius, I think Alexander is his last name. We could have gotten him, right? And then we could have gotten the Mountain instead of getting this cornerback that we really didn't need. I mean, those are just some of the scratch your heads, but not getting the fatty, and then some of these other things were stretched. That's all I had to say. It's just, those are the ones that really were head scratchers. They know, they evaluate talent. I will say in Aaron, I trust, but there is questions that need to be answered. And, at the time you're playing football in college, you've either solved the dropping problem or you're not going to, frankly.
That's right. Well, it sort of goes back to, and again, everyone can be different, I suppose, is, Josh Allen, when he came out of Wyoming, I'm like, wait a second. So you're saying he couldn't complete passes at the college level? How is suddenly he going to do that at the NFL level? No thanks. He's going to be a bust. And then he figured it out. So some people do. But the catching thing seems like a prerequisite to playing the position. And if that's something he struggles with, they must believe that it is a confidence issue. So we'll see if they believe they can reframe that and see it. For all the purpose, I guess we never played this. So I guess we can work this video in real quick. Chucky, John Gruden, was a massive fan of Arian Smith. Here's him before the draft.
All right, I'm going to give you my sleeper now. I'll put this up here.
Yes, sir.
This is a young man that I know personally. He's been in here at the FFCA. His name is Arian Smith. He plays at the University of Georgia. This guy can roll, man. This guy runs sub 4.3. I know he has some catch issues, some hands, some drops, but I have seen this guy working his ass off. This guy can change directions. He has rare acceleration. He can do the one thing you can't coach, man. He can rip the top off, and he will strike fear in people. He's got some strength. He's from right here in the state of Florida. I know what I'm getting. I'm getting an everyday worker that's going to get better and better and better, and his effort is going to help everything catch up. And when he comes into his own, Arian Smith is my guy.
His sleeper of the draft was Arian Smith. This was before the draft.
How does he get out of the box all the time, Chucky? There, don't they sell Chuckies in a box? He comes a little knife set. No, right. Here's the thing: he never has to catch a pass to make an impact on the field, right? Sure. You send him deep, and now you can make two choices, right? He's going to drop 10 times. Okay, well, if I throw it to him, 50 times, 80% of the time he's going to catch that ball, right? and you can't ignore him, standing in the end zone as he's running toward the end zone. And now all of a sudden, Garrett Wilson's got a little breathing room, So
And yeah, I was just going to add, to be honest, if he gets you once, so let's say week 1, right? The first play is Justin Fields play action, and he just uncorks like a 50-yarder. And let's say the kid catches it. This was one of the 10 times he catches the ball and rips it. For the rest of the season, in the back of my mind is like, holy shit, this guy, whoa. Like, we got to just, even if it's sliding a safety or just it's on the mind. And then maybe, again, to Aaron Glenn talked about this at the Combine, what JMO provided beyond the big plays is the threat of the big play, which opened up the underneath to eat, which, again, if you rip that once, maybe that's all you need, and then that's the decoy of it, getting it.
And he doesn't have to catch it as far as I'm concerned. He's just,
you
know what I want you to do? I want you to run as fast as you possibly can. And I want you to be 10 yards out in the open. And then the next play, I'm handing the ball to agent 0. When you back, you get 6.5 men in the box, right? Then now it's on. So you can't stack 8 men in the box when Flyboy there. And again, if he catches it, great. If he doesn't, the fear is still there, right?
Yeah. So again, that could be the thought process. Obviously, they thought of him very highly to be the 110th overall pick. Again, there are debates of where his value is. Connor Rogers had him as a 6th-round pick. Dane Brugler had him as a 5th-round pick. But if the Jets saw it, again, for me, and again, I know a lot of people hated day 3 of the draft for the Jets. A lot of people gave them a lot of props for day 1 and day 2, but day 3, a lot of people are ripping them. To me, Darren, and to anyone, quite frankly, Darren Mucci and Aaron Glenn have never burned me before. This draft is the first draft I've seen, so it's hard for me to say, look, they blew it again with this kind of player. I don't know. They've never done this before, so I'm entering this with a very open mind, and let's see what happens. There are players I liked. There's players I'm like, all right, let's see what happens. So that's where
how many games were won this weekend? After Mel Kiper's hair calms down from all the 10 pounds of hair jelly put in there, and it's after all that shit, those draft grades don't. Do you remember what the draft grade was in 2023 for the Jets?
I do.
Or 2024? No.
I'm unaware of that.
Right. And we could go back and look it up when the Jets had the phenomenal draft where they got Garrett and Sauce and Brees. When they got that draft, they probably got a C rating from that moron, right? And so it's when you don't really grade the draft till 2 years down the road. So there you go.
Well, despite that, I hope you guys check out our draft grade show coming out tomorrow morning at 7:30. They mean the best. Yes.
That was probably that was ill-timed.
Quite. But thanks, Pop. Anyway, appreciate that. But in all seriousness, though, appreciate you being on the live show on Thursday. That was super cool. Again, for those who missed it, Pop gave his breakdown of each of the selections yesterday through the top 3 rounds, and you've heard some of his day 3 reaction too. And we'll continue that tomorrow. Again, Drew Beatty, our draft analyst, he'll be joining us. And if you watch the YouTube short, he thinks this offensive line could be one of the best offensive lines in the league. So I highly recommend seeing that mini clip as well. We'll post the full Drew Beatty interview from our live draft show coming up as well. And if you missed it, Jericho Cotchery, that interview is up as well. That was terrific. So Pop, thanks for all the support on the show. That was a good time.
All right. Well, thank you, and enjoy your breakfast bonanza today. I believe you're going to the infamous Maria's there in Oswego.
Correct.
So
yes,
enjoy your birthday bonanza, burger, bacon, potatoes didn't start with a B, so I'll just stop there.
Well, there you go. That's all right. I appreciate the support. Pop, thank you, and we'll see you soon.
See you later.
There he is. Pop over as he continues his world travel over there by the Arabian Sea. Very nice. We have 700 people in the room. Like the video, hit subscribe, baby. Let's keep this train rolling. Up next, the one and only Ricky New York live.
Hey, what's happening, Paul?
Mr. A.Z. Thomas, huh?
Oh, yeah. Very happy about that. And let me just say, I know some people aren't stoked about all of our picks, but
Definitely.
Just because a guy is an unknown commodity doesn't mean he's nothing. We don't know
Right.
what our coaches are going to develop these players into. I've heard people saying that beyond the first 3 picks, everybody was a reach. Not everybody was a reach, okay? I tried to explain this the other day on the show. Like, when people get so caught up in these idiotic rankings, because the thing about rankings is whether you're looking at Next Gen Stats or PFF or the ESPN ranking, they're all different. The same guy is ranked different on each of those websites. That's because each website evaluates and grades by their own standards. And at the end of the day, those are all just opinions. The only opinions that really matter is the group of people that are evaluating. They're actually NFL teams and where they have the guys ranked at. With our last pick of the draft, we got an edge. And people were like, oh, there were better edges. Well, it depends what you want. Okay. Some guys are pure pass rushers. Other guys are, better against the run. Barron sets the edge against the run very well. And you know what? We got our JFM replacement with the last pick of the draft. That isn't a bad pick. Now, I'll admit, I was baffled by the Arian Smith pick. I still don't quite understand it. I'm not going to go quite as down on him as some people because, like I said, you can't coach speed, but some of the other problems that he has can be fixed through coaching. And real quick, John Gruden pumps up every kid who comes through his camp. So there's a little bit of bias with that clip there. But I want to say this, and, going back again to the ranking thing, you got to know, if you're talking interior defensive guys, are they pass rushers? Are they run stuffers? So yesterday, the statement was made that we shouldn't have taken AZ Thomas because there was a higher ranked corner still ahead of him, Siobhan Revell. Siobhan Revell is a zone corner. We play a man press scheme. He does not fit our scheme. So
and Siobhan is injured, right?
Yeah, and he's got injury concerns. There was an even more egregious statement that was made that AZ Thomas could not even crack the starting lineup of the worst team in the ACC until last year.
Who said that?
Yeah, let me correct that falsehood right now.
Yeah.
AZ did not start until last year because he was behind 2 guys who are right now in the NFL, Renardo Green in San Francisco and Jarian Jones in Jacksonville. That's why he didn't start until last year. And yes, they were the worst team in the ACC last year. And guess what? While they were getting dog walked every week, 52-7, 47-10, 57-9, guess what? Azaria Thomas gave up 141 yards and 0 touchdowns in man coverage the whole frigging year while his team was getting whooped. He was the only bright spot on that team aside from their kicker. The other thing is why were they the worst team in the ACC? Maybe because they lost their quarterback, their running back, their top 2 receivers, their top 2 corners, their top 2 linebackers, their best defensive end, their best defensive tackle, 12 guys to the NFL the year before, which the year before was an undefeated season. You don't lose 12 starters to the NFL and then just come out and whoop everybody's ass the next year. That's not the way it works. So, you got to add a little bit of context to those statements.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, like it, and trust me, like I had people that, I would have liked Jalen Royals maybe as opposed to Smith, but like there were other shows that I was watching where people were going, oh, I know he's got character concerns, but Isaiah Bond's still there. You know what? Nobody drafted him. And as far as I know,
undrafted.
He hasn't even been picked up as an undrafted free agent.
Oh, yeah,
so,
let me see. Yeah.
Those allegations against him, obviously teams did their homework and they did not like what they heard, because I was one of those people going, well, this late in the draft, maybe he's worth taking a shot on, but Obviously, the legal end for him is not looking good because nobody touched him.
Yeah, it looks like he is unsigned still. Yep.
Yeah, that's a pretty big statement right there. That it's a shame too because he's a very talented player. And he would have been one of those speed guys that we could have taken to really take the top off. But unfortunately, and this isn't like there's some character concerns, like he's actually legally accused of doing something pretty hideous, and if it's true, then we probably made a smart decision to stay away from him. But you know what, and there were other guys, defensive tackle JJ Pegues, other guys that I liked later that I would have hoped that we would have got. But I mean, honestly, Kiko, the linebacker, I had to go back and watch. I watched the ACC game, so I know I'd seen him, but I couldn't really remember in what context. But one of the first clips was him coming on a sack and getting Jordan Travis, and Travis beating his fist on the ground because he was pissed the guy actually got him. So that wasn't fun to watch. But, dude, you know what? He's our new Chaz Surratt. Okay, he's not supposed to take Quincy's place. Like I said, Barron is our JFM replacement. We're not worried about starters at that rate. These are depth guys, and I don't think that we did necessarily bad for depth guys. Now, more with a little development, he sounds like he might be, more long-term plan than just a depth guy. The other curious thing, which I don't know if you missed it or not, when they were talking about Arian Smith playing special teams, dude, they said the word gunner over and over again.
Oh, so, I did miss that. Okay.
Yeah. So like because at first I was thinking return guy too, but he's got a real slight frame, so you might not want him taking a lot of hits.
For sure.
Yeah, they were saying gunner quite a bit. So. Dude, I'll tell you what. Well, if he can be a really good fast gunner on one side, we've got Herb Charles on the other. That's a pretty nice set of gunners that we would have. So,
because people forget that Brandon Eccles was one of our top gunners. He's gone, and then Herb Charles obviously got hurt seriously at the end of the year. So we're missing both of our gunners right now. So yeah, that's a sneaky need that obviously no one talks about on any shows. So interesting. I like that.
Yeah, and I know some people don't see the logic in us taking a corner, but let me tell you what. Remember those interceptions that Eccles had against Miami, like every time we played them, basically? Right. Dude, Eccles played a lot of snaps for us. He played a lot of snaps for us. And AZ is going to play a lot of snaps for us in that Eccles role. Now, I think there's going to be certain definite passing situations where they're going to slide AZ outside, move Stevens over to safety when we have those 3 safety looks, when we got 5 DBs on the field. And from, I'm kind of reading between the lines, but from listening to those two guys talk, it sounded to me like that's the plan they have for them, which makes a lot of sense. So, because, I know with Solid, we played 5 DBs a lot. So,
for sure,
I know this is a different scheme, different leadership, but, in obvious passing situations, I could see a lot of those same things still applying. But yeah, man, like we don't know what any of these kids are going to be, but I'll tell you what, a funny story about Azare, excuse me.
Yeah.
Azare Thomas, not last year, but the year before, he gave up a pass when we played the University of Florida. And I was screaming at the TV and cussing him out. You would have thought he was the biggest bum ever. But being that that's a rivalry game, Renardo Green was throwing a shutout versus Ricky Pearsall, 0 catches for 0 yards. And then at the very end of the game, when we brought our backups in, he got Azari, which Azari almost picked the ball, but he should have just swatted it down. But Pearsall ended up with 1 catch for 19 yards, and Thomas gave up that 1 catch. And I was yelling at him because I wanted the no catch game, like I wanted no hitter, But dude, like Green did that to everybody. He held Neighbors to like 2 catches for 18 yards. Like he shut down everybody that year. And, that's one of the reasons AZ didn't see the field until now. But, dude, he's like you know what? He's like a nice mixture. He's a lot like Cromartie, long, tall, fast,
Ooh,
like that.
I like that comp.
But he's physical at the line. Like, and don't get me wrong, I am in no way comparing him to Revis, but the way he plays at the line, like a lot of cornerbacks can get a good punch, with the receiver on the line. Dude, he's got this two-hand punch that, like, even AG was talking about. He's like,
I heard that.
Guys can do that. He's so physical with guys at the line, and I think that's just a really nice combination. That guy sticks to you like glue. We got ourselves a hell of a good player, and I'm really, really happy. And going back,
I would have liked Joshua Farmer. I hate seeing him go to the New England Patriots.
Yeah, you know what? I do too, but I was just about to say, in a year where every single thing went wrong for that team last year, AZ still held his own and put up great stats and did his job and stuck to guys like glue. Joshua Farmer, and I like the kid. He's a good kid. However, he was extremely disappointing to me last year. Like,
oh, really? Okay.
We had all these big ideas. Him and Daryl Jackson, the twin towers next to each other. No one's going to be able to run like against us, and we were a sieve. It started out with Georgia Tech, the first game of the year, like over 300 rushing yards they put up against us, and every team just ran all over them. Their defensive line was friggin' atrocious. It was awful. And you know what? Unfortunately, they picked the wrong quarterback. The kid was probably one of the worst I've ever seen. You should have went ahead and paid those extra few bucks to Cam Ward in NIL money, because we had him there plenty and he liked us. But we decided to go the bargain route, and we paid the price for it. But now we have Ozzy's old teammate, Thomas Castellano, quarterback from BC, and we got a good quarterback again. So we'll be back. But you know what? The Jets will be back too. I got complete faith in this coaching staff. And you know what? If I was in a sub, I would listen to your dad and not touch the buttons. However, when it comes to football, I'm going to trust AG over your pops, and I'm going to trust their ability to develop these guys. So, just like AG wouldn't come in my work and tell me how to rebuild an engine, I'm not going to tell him how to rebuild this team. Guy knows what the hell he's doing. And by the way, real quick about that offensive line.
Sure.
Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, Curtis Martin ran for over 1,000 yards for a decade straight. We had one of the best offensive lines in football. You know how many first-round picks we had on that offensive line with Fabini and Ferguson and Mawai? And zero. Zilch.
Wow.
None. There were no first-round picks. They were just all damn good football players.
Crazy.
So it ain't where you're picked, it's what you do afterward. So, first round is nice, but it doesn't make you an automatic success. You got to go out there and prove it every day. So, you know what? Fingers crossed. AG said we just want to get good football players, and hopefully that's what we got. Go Jets.
Amen. Ricky, thanks for the call. Love the insights. One of our great callers. Absolutely. The one thing I want to say, I thought I erroneously said it when I was talking about linebacker depth. Obviously, we have Jamian Sherwood and Quincy Williams as their starters, and then some of the guys. Chaz Surratt, who I mention a lot, is still a free agent. And so former solid guy, so I doubt he's coming back. So, he is a free agent. Sam McGuavin is another one. He is not on the team. He's an unrestricted free agent. Here is the off-ball linebacker depth, just to bring it all the way through. They got Zaire Barnes. I did mention him. You got Jimmy Choo-Choo Charlo, the Army player. He tore his ACL, so last year. I believe that was in training camp. So we'll see if how Jimmy recovers. You have Jamin Davis, the former first-round pick out of Kentucky. You have Marcelino McCrary Ball. He's the Indiana kid. You got Jackson Sermon, the California kid, and then obviously you have Jamin Sherwood and Quincy Williams. They have Jermaine Less at linebacker, but again, he's going to be. We'll see, I guess, what scheme. I don't want to speak out of turn, but he'll be playing more so defensive end. But again, depending on the schematic, he could be a stand-up pass rusher. But we'll see. But there you go. That is the off-ball linebacker depth, and then obviously the latest rookie draft pick, which is Kiko out of Miami as well. Ton of fascinating conversation. 800 people in the room. Like the video, hit subscribe, baby. Also, stay tuned to Heavy on Jets. We'll be writing up a bunch of articles, some of these UDFA profiles, and so much more. All of that will be coming up. So Heavy on Jets is where you guys can read all my written work covering all things New York Jets. Of course, this is the home for all the video podcasts, baby. That'll wrap it up for today's show. Enjoy your Sunday. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed the draft coverage. And again, some more draft coverage to come with grades and some things of that nature will be coming out over the coming days on Boy Green Daily and Boy Green Meets Woody. We will have the grade coming out. That'll be on tomorrow morning show with Drew Beatty. You guys can call in about that. He will assess the entire New York Jets 2025 NFL draft. I was already talking to him about it. That should be another good one. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Like the video, hit subscribe, spread the gospel of all things Boy Green Daily. And also, I want to give a shout out to my fiance. One of the new gifts is this brand new camera. You can basically see my pores, for God's sake. So, shout out to the brand new camera for the video show. My beautiful fiance, Tatiana, sending that in. So, thank you. Thanks for the birthday wishes. Thanks for the draft coverage, everybody. And we will see you tomorrow morning for Boy Green Daily. Thanks, everybody. Take care.